have you ever stopped to think about what happens after the camera stops rolling?
Yeah, the stuff that happens behind the scenes, so to speak.
Exactly. The intricate alchemy that transforms all that raw footage into a cinematic masterpiece, that, my friends, is post-production.
It's truly where the story takes its final polished form. We often focus on the glamour of filming on set, but the weeks and months of meticulous craft in post are absolutely essential to what you ultimately experience.
Totally agree. And today we're taking a deep dive into the fascinating, sometimes, well, tumultuous evolution of filmmaking post-production.
It's been quite a journey.
We're going to go from the incredibly physical, hands-on craft of traditional celluloid editing
To the dizzying, data-driven world of modern digital workflows. It's a huge leap.
It really is. Our mission for you today is to give you a shortcut, basically, to being well-informed about this incredible transformation.
Yeah, we'll uncover some surprising facts, introduce you to some maybe unfamiliar roles.
And shed light on why every single pixel and soundbite matters.
Get ready for some aha moments that hopefully will change how you view every film you watch from now on.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's wind back the clock to the tangible past. Because filmmaking has this incredible over 100-year tradition.
Right.
And for so long, film was a physical medium. You could literally hold it up to the light, run it between your fingers.
Yeah, it was tactile, something real.
Exactly.
And that physicality defined every single step. Think about it. Film was wound onto reels, exposed on set. And then after shooting, those exposed negatives were shipped off, usually overnight, to labs for chemical processing.
A whole chemical bath.
Pretty much. This entire process was about precise timing patterns and light hitting a sensitive emulsion. Very analog.
So once that raw footage was developed, how did they even begin to assemble a story? I imagine you couldn't just start chopping up the original negative, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No way. The original negative was far too precious, like the crown jewels.
Right?
So editors worked with something called a film work print. Basically a positive copy, a stand-in, made specifically to keep the original negative pristine.
Okay, a sacrificial copy.
Kind of, yeah. And their tools were incredibly hands-on. Splicers, synchronizers, rewinds, and these things called trim bins.
Trim bins.
Yeah, like big canvas bins lined with cloth where they'd hang the strips of film they'd cut out. You had to picture an editor physically cutting a strip of film with a blade.
Wow.
And then taping it back together. It's just a world away from clicking a mouse.
Totally different. And that work print, I guess it took a beating.
Oh yeah, it would endure significant wear and tear from being constantly handled, run through machines. Unwanted footage literally ended up on the cutting room floor.
Which is where that famous phrase comes from. I can only imagine the patience required back then.
Incredible patience. And once the creative picture was locked, meaning, no more changes allowed.
Final cut.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A specialist called a negative cutter at the lab would painstakingly conform the original negative to match that battered work print.
How did they match it up?
They used edge code frame numbers,
Oh.
which were like an early form of time code stamped right onto the edge of the film itself.
Oh, okay.
And this process involved hot splicing with glue, literally fusing the film strips together with heat. It was so aggressive, it would often destroy the frames right next to the cut.
So no going back easily.
Not easily at all. Further adjustments were incredibly difficult, if not impossible.
And what about color? How did they handle that?
Equally laborious. Color timing involved using printer lights, basically adjusting the intensity of red, green, and blue light passed through the negative during the printing process.
Okay.
This affected the color balance on an answer print, which was essentially a test copy you'd review.
But limitations, right? What
Yeah.
couldn't they do?
Big limitations. If you wanted to control contrast selectively or, say, bring detail out of the highlights or shadows,
Yeah.
like we do effortlessly today with digital tools,
Yeah.
forget about it. It just wasn't possible back then. The technology wasn't there.
So beyond just the sheer labor involved, what were the biggest creative limitations these physical constraints imposed?
That's a really good question. I mean, the time and the cost associated with every single edit, every color correction attempt, it meant filmmakers had to be incredibly decisive.
Less room for trial and error.
Way less. Experimentation was expensive. The idea of endlessly refining a cut or endlessly tweaking a color grade like we might do now, it just didn't exist in the same way. This really pushed filmmakers to master their craft in a much more linear, almost architectural fashion. You had to build it right the first time.
Wow. Understanding these manual, time-consuming steps really helps us appreciate the why behind so many modern digital practices, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It provides crucial context.
It really puts into perspective the ingenuity of those early filmmakers. Which brings us nicely to part 2, the digital revolution.
The big shift.
Yeah, the big challenge in the mid-1980s was how to edit video non-linearly. Not just the old tape-to-tape method. This was the game changer.
Indeed. And what's fascinating are the early systems that emerged. Very costly, very elaborate. Take the montage in 1984.
Okay.
It used a bank of 17 consumer-grade Betamax decks. Can you imagine?
17! Why consumer grade?
Because using professional decks would have been deemed completely cost-prohibitive. Imagine the sound in that room. Just a symphony of whirring tapes.
That's wild. 17 Betamax decks. Then in 1985, the Ediflex system arrived. What was that like?
That featured 8 JDC VHS decks. So slightly different format and a light pen for control. Kind of futuristic for the time.
A light pen. Cool.
Yeah. And it even had this really prescient feature called Script Mimic. It allowed editors to assign a number to every line of dialogue, tag takes with timecode, and then preview them back to back, just based on the script. This concept was later sold to Avid and became Script Sync.
No way. So that idea started way back then.
It did, and the Ediflex actually won a technical Emmy for it.
Incredible. What else was happening around then?
Well, the same year, 1985, the CMX 6000 came out. This was different again, a disc-based system using laserdiscs.
Laserdiscs. Okay, I remember those.
Right. It offered what they called rock and roll playback, meaning you could play a sequence forward or backward instantly, seamlessly, and it created a virtual master that played back the edited sequence without needing videotape.
So like a preview without actually recording to tape.
Exactly. These were really the first glimpses of true nonlinear freedom, finally freeing editors from the strict linear constraints of tape.
But the real shift, the one that truly sort of democratized editing for more people, was the rise of software on personal computers.
Absolutely. That was the turning point. As Apple and IBM PCs became more affordable, developers created software-based solutions. Think Avid, Apple's Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere. These names are still huge today.
Right, and that finally allowed the transition away from those incredibly expensive, dedicated hardware systems.
Exactly. And here's a surprising fact for you. Today, editing can even be done on a phone or a tablet.
Seriously, professional level.
Well, maybe not for a Hollywood blockbuster, but certainly for many projects. That's a concept that was completely, utterly out of reach just 20 years ago.
Wow. It really underscores how quickly this technology evolves and puts powerful tools into, well, almost everyone's hands.
It's amazing, really.
And this digital shift also brought about the move to high definition, or HDTV. That happened around the late 1990s, early 2000s.
Yeah, driven by a clear need for a more robust system than the old standard definition formats like NTSC and BL.
Right, which looked pretty fuzzy by comparison.
They did. The establishment of Rec. 709 in 1998 was a really crucial step. You can think of it as the universal blueprint that told every manufacturer and broadcaster how to make and display a high-definition image.
Like a standard language for HD.
Precisely. From its pixel count to its exact color profile. This worldwide standard brought much-needed consistency, though honestly it was a challenging transition for post-production that took maybe another decade to be fully implemented everywhere.
Okay, so we've gone from cutting film with actual tape to editing on a laptop or even a phone.
Right.
But the look of the image itself is paramount in filmmaking.
Always.
Let's talk about that film versus digital cinema cameras. Because despite all this digital progress, the demise of film wasn't quite so fast, was it? People kept saying film was dead.
Not at all. It's funny, while Kodak sought bankruptcy protection in 2012, and labs were genuinely preparing to end film processing.
Yeah, Paramount even stopped releasing movies on film prints.
Right. But it wasn't the death knell everyone predicted. Here's a counterintuitive insight for you. An informal 2013 survey found that approximately half of the big awards season contenders that year.
Half? Like which ones?
Films like 12 Years a Slave, Captain Phillips, Wolf of Wall Street. Big movies, they were still shot on film.
That's truly fascinating. So with all the digital advancements, why do filmmakers and audiences, I guess, still cherish the look and feel of film so much? What is it about that organic quality?
It's largely about how film captures light. Film has a unique grain structure. It's not perfectly uniform.
Right, you can almost feel it sometimes.
Yeah, and it has a soft fall off in shadows and highlights. It handles the extremes of light gracefully, avoiding the harsh clipping that early video cameras often produced.
Ah, the clipping, where bright things just become flat white patches.
Exactly. Early video often gave flat images with those blown-out highlights, all detail just gone, and a noticeable lack of definition in the shadows. Muddy blacks.
I remember that distinct video look. And then as video cameras improved, there was this weird too clear problem, wasn't there?
Yes. The famous cinematographer Johnny Jensen, ASC, he lamented seeing every individual pore in the skin of a face. He missed film's organic, smoothing quality that subtly masked minor imperfections.
Which meant suddenly flaws in makeup or set design became painfully obvious.
Precisely. Things film might have softened were now crystal clear, maybe too clear.
And there were other issues too, right? Artifacts.
Oh yeah. Early digital video also introduced visual artifacts like moire, those weird shimmering, almost rainbow-like patterns you sometimes see on fine textures like a striped shirt.
Ugh, yeah, I know that one.
And the jello effect from CMO smear when you pan the camera quickly, where the image appears to wobble or skew.
Right, like jelly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Plus, there's the frame rate difference. The 24 frames per second of traditional film creates a natural, subtle motion blur, which looks different from videos often sharper, sometimes described as smoother, 30 fps or 60 fields per second. It's a different feel.
So the demand was clearly there for digital to catch up to and ideally surpass film's aesthetic qualities.
And eventually it did. A new generation of digital cinema cameras emerged. Think ARRI Alexa, RBD, Sony Cinealta. These are capable of matching or even surpassing film's dynamic range.
Dynamic range being?
The ability to capture detail in both the brightest brights and the darkest darks simultaneously. These cameras offered 14+ stops of latitude, which is huge.
Okay, more information captured.
Way more. And crucially, these cameras capture raw data and record in log color space.
Raw and log, what's the difference?
Think of raw as the pure, unprocessed digital negative, like the raw sensor data. Log is a type of compressed format, but one that still retains a massive amount of that dynamic range and color information.
So more flexibility later on.
Immense flexibility in post-production. By preserving the scene-referred information data about the light in the actual scene, not just how it looks on a standard monitor, it's analogous to having a film negative. It gives colors so much more to work with.
Got it. And the innovation didn't just stop at the super high-end, right? DSLRs made a huge splash too.
Oh, massive impact, especially for independent filmmakers. Digital single-lens reflex cameras, like the Canon 5D Mark II, suddenly offered interchangeable lenses and that beautiful shallow depth of field.
That blurry background look everyone loves.
Exactly, and at a relatively modest cost compared to cinema cameras.
What were the downsides, though?
Well, they were lightweight, great for fitting in tight spaces, sure, but cons included lower dynamic range than dedicated cinema cameras, heavy H.264 compression, which could limit your options in color grading.
Right, the footage could fall apart if pushed too hard.
Yeah, and those pesky moire and CMOS smear issues were often more pronounced.
But still a game changer.
Absolutely. And here's a fascinating little detail. An unsupported third-party firmware hack called Magic Lantern.
Hack.
Completely unofficial. It could actually expand the capabilities of some DSLRs, like the Canon ones, to include raw video recording.
Wow, so you could get that high-end data from a consumer camera.
Potentially, yes. Dramatically increasing their potential, though it was definitely not for the faint of heart. You were kind of on your own if things went wrong.
That's the true indie spirit right there.
Yeah.
We actually have a real-world example of this mentioned in the source material, the documentary short Baby-Faced Assassin.
Oh, yes.
It was shot by filmmaker Frank and edited by Chris Kersel using a Canon 5D. And Frank was apparently super diligent, triple backing up 7 hours of footage every single day.
Smart move, especially back then with less robust media. And Chris, the editor, noted something really interesting.
Yeah.
Even accidental shots, like from a camera locking up or malfunctioning briefly,
Yeah.
those moments actually contributed creatively to the final layered feel of the film.
That's amazing. It really shows the power of editing, doesn't it? How unexpected moments and diverse perspectives can be woven into a cohesive story through the craft of post-production.
Absolutely. Sometimes limitations breed creativity.
From the set to the screen, it's just so clear how technology has profoundly reshaped the entire filmmaking process. Let's move into part 4, the modern digital pipeline. Because this shift brought entirely new roles, new tools, and frankly, a whole new level of complexity.
Oh, for sure. And one of the most critical relatively new roles is the digital imaging technician, or DIT.
DIT. Okay, what do they do?
They're essentially the indispensable bridge between production and post. This isn't just a job for a PA anymore. It requires a highly skilled technical professional.
So what exactly are their responsibilities, and why are they so crucial now?
They do a lot. Camera troubleshooting on set, managing the look of the footage, working with the DP to apply preliminary color grades called LUTs, ensuring consistency.
Okay, look management.
Yeah. And crucially, verifying and backing up all that precious digital data. Their knowledge and experience can literally save a production untold thousands of dollars by preventing data loss or corruption.
Data is everything now.
It is. A key part of their job is managing the 3-2-1 rule for data backup.
3, 2, 1.
3 copies of the data on 2 different types of media formats, with at least 1 copy stored offsite.
Makes sense. Redundancy.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really technical but super important. Checksum verification.
Checksum. Sounds complex.
It's basically creating a unique digital fingerprint as a long string of numbers and letters for every single file based on its data. When you copy the file, you run the checksum process again on the copy.
Yeah.
If even a single bit, a single pixel is different in the copy, the fingerprint won't match. That tells you immediately that the copy is corrupt or incomplete. It ensures every copy is absolutely identical to the camera original.
Wow, that level of verification is essential, I guess.
Paramount. Because we've got some cautionary tales in the source material that highlight what happens when that process isn't followed rigorously.
Oh boy, like what?
Well, there's the case of the missing lawn. A Bollywood production filmed at a house with just a dirt lot, planning to add a nice green lawn in post using CGI.
Okay, common enough.
But the camera used had a subtle registration issue, meaning the film wasn't held perfectly steady as it moved through the camera gate. It caused the image to wheeze slightly, almost imperceptibly.
And that caused problems.
Big problems. This seemingly minor physical issue compounded into a CGI nightmare in post, trying to track the fake lawn onto the unstable footage. Cost significant time and money to fix.
Yikes. What else?
There's another story called Last Mag Standing. A tired crew shooting on an R-Red Epic camera failed to properly verify the data backups on the very last day of shooting.
Oh no.
Yeah, significant footage was just gone, corrupted or never copied correctly. It required a costly reshoot, estimated at tens of thousands of dollars.
Ouch. It hurts.
It really does. And it highlights a critical point made by Holly Schiffer-Zucker, an HBO VP mentioned in the source. There needs to be crystal clear communication about expected outcomes between production and post-production. You can't just wave a magic wand in post, you need a plan.
Communication is key. So once the DAT has meticulously secured and maybe prepped the footage, the actual storytelling begins in the edit suite. And even in this digital age, we still talk about offline versus online editing, right?
That's right. The distinction still holds, though it's evolved. Offline is where the bulk of the creative editing decisions happen. The editor shapes the story, the pacing, the performances.
And they often use lower resolution files for this?
Exactly. They use proxies, lightweight, smaller versions of the high-quality footage to save on storage space, and, more importantly, processing power. It makes the system much more responsive, especially with high-resolution footage like 4K or 8K. It's all about the creative cut, the narrative flow at this stage.
Makes sense. Faster workflow. And then online editing is?
The final assembly stage. This is where the editor, or sometimes a specialist called an online editor or finishing editor, takes the locked offline cut and conforms it using the master quality, full resolution, often uncompressed source footage.
So swapping out the proxies for the originals.
Precisely. And incorporating the final polished audio mix, final visual effects shots, titles, graphics, everything needed for the finished product. This is done on powerful specialized systems because of the high data demands and the need for absolute pixel-perfect precision.
Got it. High stakes at that point.
Very high stakes. And this leads us naturally to color grading, which used to be called color correction, but now it's much more. It's often part of the digital intermediate process, or DI.
Although you mentioned the term DI is a bit outdated now.
Yeah, it's funny. The term digital intermediate is kind of no longer a digital intermediate in the original sense, because often the entire process from capture to finish is digital. It's not just an intermediate step between film and film anymore, but the term DI has stuck.
Okay, so what are the main goals of color grading today?
It's multifaceted. There's the artistic look creation, defining the overall visual style of the film. There's ensuring continuity, making sure shots cut together seamlessly in terms of color and exposure.
Fixing mistakes from set.
Correcting any exposure or white balance issues, yes. And fundamentally, It's about enhancing the mood and emotion of the film through color,
Mhm.
making a scene feel warm, cold, tense, nostalgic,
Color is so powerful emotionally.
incredibly powerful. And doing this color work in a dedicated, powerful grading system like DaVinci Resolve, for example, is far superior to trying to do complex grades just within a non-linear editor like Premiere or Final Cut.
Why is that?
Especially when you're working with that scene referred footage we talked about, log or raw. Those formats preserve significantly more dynamic range and color information than standard output referred video like Rec. 709.
Right, the standard HD video signal.
Exactly. Grading systems are designed to handle that extra data, giving the colorist a much broader, more flexible canvas to manipulate the image without it breaking down or looking artificial.
More like painting with light.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And then you get into nuances like supervised versus unsupervised grading, whether the director or DP is physically present during the grade, and the concept of a hero pass, which is the main color grade, usually for the theatrical master version, followed by trim passes, which are adjustments made to that hero grade for different delivery formats like broadcast TV, streaming, Blu-ray, which might have slightly different technical requirements or brightness levels.
Incredibly detailed.
Oh, yeah. And it all relies on understanding and managing different essential color spaces, like Rec. 709 for HDTV, DCI-P3, which is the standard for digital cinema projection, the camera's native log format, and increasingly, the Academy Color Encoding System, or ACES.
ACES.
Yeah, ACES is a system designed to create a standardized, high-fidelity color management pipeline across the entire production and post-production process, ensuring color consistency from set through VFX, grading, and final delivery. It's pretty robust.
Wow, okay. Lots of technical layers there. Now, beyond color, we have to talk about visual effects.
VFX.
We're magic makers. Right, because it's not just giant robots and explosions anymore. VFX allows for incredibly subtle, often completely imperceptible enhancements, too.
Absolutely. From simple touch-ups like removing a boom mic that dipped into frame to creating entire computer-generated worlds, visual effects are truly ubiquitous in modern filmmaking.
So what falls under the VFX umbrella?
All sorts of things. CGI, obviously, both 2D and 3D animation and compositing, green screen or blue screen keying to replace backgrounds, and even rig and wire removal, digitally painting out the wires used for stunts or lights or even crew members reflected in a window. Stuff you never even noticed was there, hopefully.
And then there's the slightly controversial area of beauty work.
Ah, yes. The subtle, often completely unnoticed art of digitally removing blemishes, wrinkles, smoothing skin, or even subtle body contouring for actors.
Is that common?
It's more common than you might think. Sometimes a certain level of this vanity pass is explicitly written into actors' contracts.
Really? Wow. But VFX isn't always the answer, is it? There's that dangerous mantra, we can fix it in post.
Ugh, yes. The bane of many post-production teams. VFX producer Nancy St. John, mentioned in the material, provides a really critical perspective on this.
What does she say?
She basically says that constantly deferring decisions or problems from production, assuming they can just be magically fixed in post with VFX, causes massive cost overruns and schedule delays. And she argues it's actually a leading cause of VFX companies going bankrupt because they underbid trying to accommodate these unplanned fixes.
So relying on fix-it in post is bad business.
Terrible business. She notes that studios are now actively seeking fewer VFX-heavy films, partly because of these budget risks. Think of something like Silver Linings Playbook, which impressively had 0 visual effects shots.
That's a huge takeaway for anyone involved in making films. Plan ahead.
Absolutely. But technology, when used smartly, can also enable new creative approaches, even on a tight budget. There's a great example with director Daniel Iglesias.
Oh yeah, the music video.
Right, for the Jonas Brothers. He used 2 high-end R80 Epic cameras, the main workhorses. But he also used 4 little GoPro Hero 3 action cams alongside them.
GoPros.
Yeah. He literally gave a GoPro to one of the actors, Wilmer Valderrama, and told him to just shoot some fun little escapades while they were filming in a club setting. And he ended up capturing an entire extra scene's worth of usable, spontaneous footage just from that GoPro, all for a project with only a $30,000 budget overall.
That's fantastic. Using the right tool for the job, even if it's unconventional.
Exactly. And he and his editing partner collaborated using both Avid and Adobe Premiere, exchanging their work back and forth using AAF files, which are like Universal Translator files for edit timelines. It really highlights how affordable tech can enable new creative ideas and workflows.
So with the visuals meticulously crafted, refined, maybe even digitally enhanced. The next critical layer in truly immersing an audience is the soundscape itself.
The sound, so important.
Let's talk about sound design and final mixing. Roy Finch, who's a writer, director, and composer, calls sound effectively the fourth dimension of film.
I love that quote. He's absolutely right. Sound adds depth, emotion, reality, or unreality.
And modern sound design isn't just pulling sounds off a shelf, is it?
Not at all. Good sound designers sculpt complex, bespoke soundscapes. They don't just grab a generic punch sound from a library. A single event, like a punch in the intense Korean film I Saw the Devil, might have 3, 4, 5 layers of different sounds combined to create a really visceral, unique impact.
Layers of sound.
Yeah. Or think of the elevator scene in Drive. The sound design there is incredible, hyper-real, building tension.
And it's not just about making things sound realistic. There's also expressionistic sound design, right? Where sound reflects a character's inner state.
Exactly. In Drive, again, the main character's kicking watch is sometimes mixed louder than his car's powerful engine, emphasizing his internal tension and meticulous nature. The sound tells you about his psychology.
That's clever.
You also see musical sound design, where the lines blur between the musical score and the sound effects. In the sci-fi film Sunshine, the massive ship's engines were apparently tuned to a note that was sympathetic to the score, making the sound effects feel like part of the music itself.
Integrating everything. Wow. And sometimes the best sounds are unexpected combinations.
Oh, definitely. The source mentions the car chase in The Bourne Identity. The sound of the little Mini Cooper wasn't a Mini at all.
No. What was it?
It was created by blending the sound of a motorcycle, pitched down, with the sound of a Cadillac that was missing one of the spark plugs, pitched up.
Get out. That's amazing. Why?
It created this unique, slightly aggressive, almost fantasy car sound that perfectly fit the film's gritty, heightened reality. Pure sonic invention.
Incredible. Now, editors often use temporary music and sound while cutting, right? Temp tracks.
Yes, editors create fully filled temp tracks with music and effects, especially for preview screenings, to give a sense of the final product. But this can lead to the dreaded temp love.
Temp love.
Yeah, it's when the director or producers or even the editor gets really attached to those temporary music cues used in the edit.
And the problem is,
those temp cues are often famous and very expensive to license. Pieces of music that were never intended to be in the final film. Replacing them with the composer's original score can then feel wrong to someone who's fallen in love with the temp.
I see. Attachment issues.
Pretty much. And sound editor Harry Chaney reveals a perhaps sobering reality. On a big features, the temp version is expected by and large to be a full edit, meaning fully fleshed out with sound. And because of time and budget pressures, that temp mix often becomes the final version with just a few changes.
Wow, so the temp track can basically become the blueprint for the final sound. That's a reality check.
It really is.
Now, even with all this complex digital sound design, some old school techniques are still vital, right? Like ADR and Foley.
It's absolutely essential. ADR, or automated dialogue replacement, sometimes called looping, is where actors re-record their lines in a studio.
Why do they need to do that?
Lots of reasons. Maybe the sound recorded on location was noisy traffic, wind, airplanes. Maybe the director wants a different performance read. Or maybe lines need to be changed slightly after filming. Actor Hugh Jackman apparently even did ADR via satellite from another country for one of the Wolverine movies.
Wow, remote recording and Foley. What's that?
Foley is the art of creating all those incidental sounds that aren't dialogue or specific big effects. Think footsteps on different surfaces, the rustle of clothing, props being handled, keys jangling, all performed live in a studio by Foley artists while watching the picture.
So they're literally walking in sync with the actor on screen.
Exactly. With different shoes on different surfaces, they have bits full of gravel, wood floors, water trays. It's an amazing craft.
Why not just use library sounds for footsteps?
You could, but Foley often sounds more natural, more synchronized, and it adds a subtle layer of performance. And here's an interesting reason why Foley is absolutely crucial for foreign language releases.
Oh, why's that?
When a film is dubbed into another language, say German, the original English dialogue track is removed. But that track also contains all the original incidental sounds recorded on set, the little breaths, the cloth movement, the props handled during the dialogue.
So all that gets lost too.
Exactly. So the Foley track becomes essential to rebuild that layer of sonic reality for the dubbed version. The source mentions sound editor Harry Chaney sharing that the Germans are very picky about their M&E, meaning the separate music and effects tracks they receive for dubbing. They want it perfectly filled, and Foley is key to that.
talk about specific international standards, and sound technology just keeps evolving, doesn't it? Like immersive audio.
Definitely. Dolby Atmos, which debuted back in 2012, was a huge step. It offers a truly 3D audio experience. Instead of just channels like 5.1 or 7.1, it treats sounds as objects that can be placed anywhere in the 3D space around the audience.
How many speakers are we talking?
It can support up to 64 individual speaker feeds and handle 128 simultaneous audio inputs or objects. It represents a huge shift in psychoacoustics, making sound feel like it's truly coming from all around you, even above you.
Immersive is the right word. It's just incredible to think about how every single element, from the tiniest Foley sound to a massive visual effect, is meticulously planned and crafted.
It really is a combination of art and science.
And that brings us to our final segment, part 5. The road ahead: archiving, preservation, and something called the long tail. Because while making films digitally is incredibly convenient in many ways, it presents a unique challenge: the digital dilemma.
That's right. Digital films are born digital, which means they might have few, if any, original film elements, like a negative to fall back on for long-term preservation.
And that's a problem.
Well, it means the long-term prospects for the survival of digital films remain in doubt in a way that traditional films don't. Film, the physical medium, actually has an advantage here. It's projected to last over 100 years if stored properly in cool, dry conditions.
It's a stable physical object, whereas digital files...
Digital files are just data. Andrea Kalis, who's an archivist for Paramount Pictures, puts it perfectly in the source material. She says, film likes to sit on shelves in very cold, dry temperatures and likes to be left alone.
Okay.
Digital likes to be constantly fed and watered and touched and moved and managed. Digital requires active management, a managed infrastructure, not just static storage you can stick on a shelf and forget about for 50 years. File formats become obsolete, storage media degrades, data needs migrating.
So you have to keep tending to the digital garden.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So what are the modern archival solutions? LTO, or linear tape open, systems are still a very common and cost-effective method of handling large amounts of data for archiving. It's tape, but digital tape.
LTO tapes. Okay. What else?
Cloud storage services like Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage are increasingly used. They offer secure and redundant data storage, often claiming things like 99.99999999999% durability of the files, because your data is replicated across multiple geographically separate data centers.
11 nines. That sounds pretty durable.
It's very durable. But the focus now has shifted from just preserving the physical storage medium, like a hard drive or an LTO tape, to actively managing the digital file itself and its metadata, the information about the file, to ensure it remains readable and accessible as technology inevitably evolves.
So preservation isn't just about physical storage anymore, it's about data management.
Exactly. And sometimes restoration projects can bridge these old and new worlds. The source mentions the amazing restoration of Wings, the very first film to win the Best Picture Oscar back in 1927.
Wow, a silent film. How did they restore that?
It showcased this blended approach. They sourced different film elements from archives all around the globe. They meticulously recreated the original musical score that would have been performed live. And they digitally retinted frames based on historical continuity scripts, because tinting was common back then to convey mood. And sound designer Ben Burtt, famous for Star Wars, even added sound effects to the originally silent film.
Adding sound to a silent film, isn't that controversial?
Normally, yes. But apparently, adding sound effects during projection was actually a common practice in high-end theaters back in 1927 to make the experience more immersive. So they were recreating that authentic 1927 experience.
Fascinating, recreating the original context.
Exactly. And this whole practice of preservation and restoration becomes even more critical now because of the rise of the long tail of distribution.
The long tail, what's that?
It's a concept popularized by Chris Anderson. With the advent of streaming services like Amazon, Netflix, iTunes, etc., films don't just have a short theatrical run and then disappear onto dusty shelves.
Right, they stay available online.
Exactly. The long tail refers to the vast number of niche films and older titles that, while they might not be blockbusters, can collectively find and retain audiences for years and years online. They generate significant revenue over time.
So old movies keep making money.
Potentially, yes. And this makes long-term preservation absolutely crucial, not just for preserving our cultural heritage, but also for ongoing commercial viability. These stories need to remain accessible.
It's truly a testament to the enduring power of storytelling, isn't it? Regardless of the medium or how old it is.
Absolutely, good stories last.
So, what a journey we've taken. From the painstaking physical craft of editing actual film strips with blades and tape.
To the rapid-fire, data-rich, incredibly complex world of digital post-production today.
It's a story of constant innovation, the emergence of entirely new roles like the DIT, and everyone constantly adapting to ever-changing technology that continually pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
And our hope, really, is that you now have a deeper understanding and appreciation for the incredible thought, artistry, and technical prowess that goes into every single frame and every single sound you experience in a film.
Yeah, and how decisions made way back on set can ripple all the way through this complex process to the final delivery on your screen.
Every step matters.
It really does. We've seen editing literally move from heavy, room-sized machinery to an app on the phone in your pocket. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is.
So, as technology continues its relentless march forward, here's a final thought for you to ponder. What currently impossible or maybe just incredibly difficult aspect of filmmaking, or perhaps specifically post-production, do you think will become commonplace in the next decade?
That's a good one.
And maybe more importantly, how will these future tools not just change how stories are told, but what kinds of stories we can even imagine telling?
Deep thoughts. Something for everyone to mull over.
Definitely something to think about until our next deep dive.